welcome to another episode of Equalizer Podcast, where we dive into the real stories and the strategies behind international law enforcement and intelligence work. I'm your host, William Acosta, and today's conversation is one you won't want to miss. Our first guest is Jack McFarland, who dedicated 32 years to the Drug Enforcement Administration, retiring as a Supervisor Special Agent. Jack began his professional life as a high school teacher and football coach in Pennsylvania before answering the call to public service with the Drug Enforcement Administration. Assignments that span from the streets of Philadelphia to the Caribbean, where Jack supervised a task force battling some of the world's most dangerous drug traffickers, trained new agents at Quantico, and led operations that shape agencies' policies. His hands-on expertise in undercover work, international stings, and agent development make him a true legend in the field. Joining him is my good friend Robert Bunch, a Marine Corps veteran and former CIA officer. Robert served as a Marine Special Operator in a recon battalion before transitioning to the intelligence, bringing him real-world combat and reconnaissance skills into cover operations throughout his CIA career, which included managing counter-terrorism operations and roles in human special activities and international cooperation. Robert provided critical leadership in both field and headquarter assignments. His journey from the Marine Corps to the CIA reflects the highest levels of dedication to national security, and he remains a respected voice on the intelligence, leadership, and military service. Together, we'll discuss how the DEA and CIA work in tandem against international crime overseas, what it takes to make it through the toughest training environment in government, and the path from application to special operations, and the stories both dramatic and humorous that have defined their careers. Welcome to this episode of Equalizer. Today, I have the honor to have two very special individuals. My friend, Mr. Jack McFarland, and Mr. Robert Bunch. Jack McFarland spent over 32 years in the Drug Enforcement Administration and concluded his career as a special agent in charge. Robert Bunch spent many years in the Marine Corps as a reconnaissance special operator, and then later on joined the Central Intelligence Agency with different assignments in headquarters, the Counter-Terrorism Division, and then many other assignments. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Bill. How you doing, brother?
Good.
Hey, appreciate you having me on, man. It's an honor, definitely, to talk to Jack and speak with you as well. Always, Bill. So no, I appreciate, especially on tomorrow's Veterans Day, but Marine Corps birthday. No, I appreciate you guys just taking the time out of your day. We all have stuff going on, but no, it's a pleasure and honor to speak with both of you.
Yeah, to all the veterans out there, we thank you for your service, past, present, and future veterans and their families that sacrifice so much, waiting around and sleepless nights or going to hospitals to visit veterans when they get injured. It's not only the veteran, but the families go through a lot when the service members are serving this country all over the world. And I like to, thank everybody for that.
Likewise.
Let's start real simple. With you, Jack. How did your early life prepare you for your career choices? You went from being a school teacher, and all of a sudden you applying for federal agencies all over, and finally got picked up by the Drug Enforcement Administration?
That's a good question. I think we talked about that in other podcasts, but I'll reiterate it here. Family and friends played an important role in my upbringing, of course, and my educational background, and where I was born and raised up near Allentown, Pennsylvania. So that was very instrumental. But family, friends, education, being an athlete was also very important, and meeting, just being around good people. Being around good people, but set me up for the doing the right thing in the United States government. Absolutely.
Rob, what was the defining moment when you realized you wanted a career in intelligence?
It was luck. To echo what Jack said, is being around good people. And I remember we had a state senator come and talk to us, and the guy was a Navy diver, and I was like, that sounds cool. And so I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And whenever I got in the military, joined the military in boot camp, a monkey could do boot camp, but going in there and doing that, then in order to become a diver, there were only 2 tracks I could go, and the track at the time was to go be a recon guy. I didn't want to do that stuff, dude, but that was the track I wanted to go, or to be a diver, and so that was my only path. And it just led into it. It's funny, Jack and I probably had crossed paths back then, because whenever I started doing the recon guy stuff, our whole mission set was counter narcotics, man. We call them CDs, and Jack knows what that is. So it was counter drug operations, and so that pawned me over there. And once you get a flavor for it, it calls you. You don't call it. And once you get into that world, you are elbows deep into it. But that's to echo what Jack said. Being around good people, and it gave me the appetite to go do. First of all, it is what it is. Being 17, 18 years old, to do cool guy shit. Number one, but
I love that.
yeah, to go do that. But then number two, you're surrounded by solid people, man, and it makes you a better person. And so that's not to protract that, but that's why I chose that path. No, I didn't choose that path. The path chose me, because I'm a dullard, to tell you the truth.
Jack.
Yes, sir.
For our younger viewers, what academic or personal background you recommend for young viewers to have before applying for a law enforcement career in a federal path, which means that the only thing that they don't waiver is the 4-year degree. That's not negotiable.
Yep.
So what do you recommend people, do besides not get in trouble when they're young and, live like a very, regimental, disciplined life, so your background comes back clean?
I mean, let's be honest. We were all young once, and I think we're still young today. I think my man Bobby sitting there can still take care of it. You as well, Bill, can still take care of it. And you're right about don't do something stupid when you're growing up. Yeah, because you're gonna, but try to hopefully it's not too egregious or too bad. Education is very important. Yes, you talked about the 4-year college degree. Yes, the master's degree as well. It'd be very helpful for federal law enforcement. But let's take a step back. I didn't go right into federal law enforcement. I was a high school teacher and a football coach, like you said. So I had a profession going in, like my father. I had a profession going in, but I just got interested because of a friend of mine, and I applied for it. I was very, would you say lucky? Maybe I was lucky, but back then, you had George Bush and of course President Ronald Reagan, just throwing money at the drug war. So what I would say is number one, try to keep your nose clean, keep your head down, be around good people. I'll swing it back to what Bobby said and what I just said. Hang around good people. Try to do the best you can. Don't get in trouble. Do your education. Maybe look towards, if you can't get to the big show, maybe go with that, no disrespect, the local law enforcement, county, state law enforcement, military, is a huge. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the level of experience one achieves, one gets from the military, from Uncle Sam. There's no one in the world that can train like the Uncle Sam personnel. There's no one. I mean, I've been around many. Bobby, I know, has been around a bunch of them, and they always come to look towards us, towards the United States of America. So my thing is, if you get involved and you want to go into federal law enforcement, and all of a sudden you apply to, say, the DEA, and the DEA knocks you out for some reason, man, don't let it knock you down. Get yourself back up again. What are you gonna? If you're a surfer, or if you're a football player and you get knocked on your butt, are you gonna just lay there on the field? No, you got to get it back up if you can. If you're not injured, of course, but you get back up and you move forward. So my whole thing is, do your steps, take your time, be patient, because yes, life does go by quickly. But don't. How can I say this? You can shoot for the stars, but you got to take your time by getting there as well.
That's very sound advice.
Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Bob, how did your first day compare to your expectations when you went into your first day of training in the Recon battalion, in the Recon, selection process first, and then?
I was dumb enough to just push through, man. So we started out with 40 and graduate, or the two of us passed the selection, but you push through that, and then you start the training. So you start the training and you do all that. But honestly, man, not to get on Jack, but we were doing a counter narcotics operation. Jack's probably familiar with it. We were doing it in South Florida, and you've got a posse comitatus thing, and so they were using us. But we were talking to these. There were 5. This was right after cell phones came out, and nothing I'm saying is classified. But there were 5 numbers programmed in the cell phone they gave us. Number 1, we're a recon unit, but the mission commander was a Green Beret. So we had this nerd, and he was in charge. So, and then you had customs, you had 2 SWAT teams, and then you had a DEA guy. And so you had those guys. And these are the dudes we're dealing with. And they're like, hey, when the mission commander is breaking this down to us, he's like, because we're butting up against an Indian nation, and you had to have a passport to go there. And he's like, if these guys start shooting at you, don't shoot at them. And I'm like, what the fuck's this nerd talking about? No, if they start banging, we're banging. And then he's like, also, alligators are endangered. So, and again, for your listeners, I apologize if they're averse to foul language, but they're like, you can't shoot alligators. And we're like, okay. The whole time, man, I'm looking at the DA guy, and he's like, what? The whole time. And I'm telling my team leader, I'm like, if we got to hit the bat phone, who are we calling? He's like, we're calling the DA guy, dude. And I was like, you're goddamn right we are.
Lovely. I love it.
Dude,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But that was my first exposure to the DA. And Jack and I were talking about the other day, and I'm not blowing smoke up his ass, but every DA dude I've been around, you could say Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, you can say whatever. I don't give a shit. DA, LAPD, SWAT, FBI, HRT, they're all phenomenal. DA, that's where this shit gets done, dude. Those guys are the studs. And then Jack, he taught those nerds how to do that, man. To actually go out and gunfight and do grown ass man shit. So I don't know if that answered your question, but with me looking at my experience and seeing the things that I've seen, I've seen some cool stuff, don't get me wrong, but I learned so much exponentially from the DEA agents. Phenomenal dudes, man. And trust me, I will throw shade all day long. FBI, SEALs, whoever. And it's an easy lift, but DEA, no. There was not a single dude there that I ever crossed paths with who was a nerd. All those guys were studs, dude. And I'm not talking about kind of studs at an exponential level.
You know what is funny? Remembering when I was undercover with U.S. Customs, that the when you went out on an operation, an undercover operation, you had a lot of briefcases. The cell phones were briefcases that you had to open up the briefcase, put the antenna on top of the car, make sure that there was no buildings around. Then you had the guys with the beepers going off. The beepers, I remember the first beepers didn't even have a number. They had 5 different tones. Then you had the Nagaras. The old Nagaras were really big and heavy.
Yep.
And they used to get hot. The batteries used to burn you.
That's right.
And then they came out with the RN36, the small Panasonic recorders.
Yep.
That, there was a company that changed the microphone piece, and the microphone piece was held with some type of black epoxy. Do you remember that?
Yes. I remember the Nagras, man. That was, you actually had to wear like
a belt,
like a belt or a bandage
right.
around you, and put it on top of that because you would get burned. It was too hot.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you had a hairy chest, the tape that they used, it was almost like you were getting waxed. One of these wax places.
Bill, I think you've come out of your shell, my brother, man. You are
a little bit, man. You lighten up for sure, dude.
No, it was torture. It was torture.
God damn.
I remember a time that a guy says, "I think you're wired," and I grab his hands and put it near my scrotum, and I say, "Yeah." And the guy said, "No, you're gay. You're gay. Get away from me." But I was wired. If he would have touched me, if I would have allowed him to touch me, it could have been my last day. But you have to, like, when you work undercover, you have to be a chameleon, and you have to be able to improvise on a second's notice to be able to survive. Because no matter how much you train for it, the team is close, but it's not that close. And sometimes when you're behind a door, especially if they deadbolt lock the door, you're not going nowhere anytime soon.
Bill, it still sounds pretty gay. I'm going to throw it out there.
You're getting close there, brother. You're getting close. Yes. No, I really want to thank Bobby for putting out the kudos to the DEA. I really, really do, man. Power to you, brother. I really appreciate that. And Bill, I'm seeing a different side of you right now, which is amazing. It's a good side, because I know we did this before. I know Bob did this before, and you were stone cold, man. You were stone cold. So it's good to see you got a personality.
I have to keep a serious face to give the audience that this is a serious program.
Absolutely, it is.
A million percent.
Absolutely, yes. It's great that we're able to sit here and in our respective areas, homes or whatever, and we can say to each other, "Hey, man, we did X, Y, and Z." But you know what? We don't brag. We don't boast. We just do our thing. But here we're sitting around talking and laughing, just like thousands of other military, federal, state, local, county, state guys, international guys do the same thing, and gals do the same thing. But at least we are here. As Veterans Day approaches tomorrow, a lot of the boys and girls they're not with us. So
they're not, and I believe collectively that Bill, Jack, both of you guys bring a lot to the community, a lot to the conversation, exponentially more than the majority of people could. So if we can't sit around and bust balls and laugh, it's not going to be productive. But to your point, Bill, it's a serious conversation, and you have an audience, and so we need to dive in on that. But at the same time, man, you got to understand look at the nerds you're talking to. You're talking to Jack and me, so we're probably gonna break some shit.
No, and you know what is important is that a lot of young people want to get into these careers, but they have a misconception of what the careers are about from television. And it is not all glamorous, and it's not all shooting and ramming cars against each other, or violating people's civil rights and doing all of this stuff, and it's a methodology, and it has more rules of what you cannot do than rules that you could do, and it makes or breaks careers. You have a big oversight, whether it's the DEA, whether it's the CIA, whether it's the NYPD. There are not only, like in the NYPD, you have internal affairs, and then you have CCRB in the civilian side. Then you have other federal law enforcement agencies looking at you closely in the event something does go wrong in an operation or in the street. I don't know if you saw this week that there was a New York City police officer that was working as a drug dealer and working for an organization for the 15 years he was in. And, it puts a very bad tarnish on entire law enforcement when it shouldn't be that way. There's always corruption in every, set of society. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, or whatever profession. There's a percentage that could be corrupted by either opportunity or because they need money or whatever the reasons for them to go the wrong way. But as the Mullen Commission shows, every 20 years there is a cycle that comes back and hunts the NYPD. There is a cycle that has also tarnished or tried to tarnish the good labor the Drug Enforcement Administration has done. And there has been cases of rogue CIA officers that have been indicted for whatever reasons. And that's my take on that. How you guys view it?
Bob, you want to go first?
I don't even know what your question was, Bill, to tell you the truth.
No, it wasn't a question. It was more of a broader spectrum of how things could go wrong when you go into this profession and you are an idealist or you are a person that believes everything is black and white, but there's also other colors to this.
So now I understand that, and that's my fault. That's not you. The thing about it is when you have someone, to your point, Bill, about going in and they're an idealist, like Jack was a school teacher. My wife's a school teacher. The most important thing you can do, our most important resource, are our youth. It is what it is. Regardless, you can say whatever. You could be whoever doing the coolest cash stuff on the planet, but cultivating the minds of young kids to get them to learn how to think. That's number one. And there is no more admirable profession on the planet than that. So number two, moving forward, is if you are around children and there are going to be kids. It's like I was watching somebody of mine sent me a reel about Miami Vice, and it was Crockett and Tubbs, and they were doing some stuff. Dopest ass show on the planet, dude. But they were doing it, and I was like, I want to do that stuff, man. It's super cool. Now, on the back end of it, when you look at it through a grown-ass man perspective, you're not going to be doing that stuff every day. No, you're going to be doing, you're going to be riding a desk the majority of the time. And whenever you get the call to go out and bang, then yeah, like Jack, what was it? You've been in gunfights before. Out of your 32 years, if you were to put a percentage, dude, on how many times, just percentage wise, about gunfights versus sitting behind a desk, what's that?
You know the old adage, fighter pilots, 1%, 99% sure boredom, 1% sure terror. Well, yep. with DEA, and thank you for letting me come in on this one, Bob and Bill. is, everyone thinks you're constantly doing something. We've had personnel come on the job that were former, say, city police officers, and they would have to leave DEA because they would say on an exit interview there wasn't enough action. Well, not enough action. I mean, you're in the wrong spot. Then you're not doing the job. But to piggyback on what Bob's saying, percentage-wise, you are going to be in court. You're going to be behind the desk typing and writing. You're going to be interviewing people to further investigation. You might be on a wiretap. You might be sitting there for 30, 60, 90 days listening to telephone calls, and some guy's talking about some gals telling the doper to go pick up bread and milk at the grocery store. You're like, oh, not a pertinent call, whatever. So, but when it comes down to it, when you have to go and you're working undercover, or you're making purchases on the street, or you're running down an investigative lead that can turn violent at any given moment, or you're doing an entry. A lot of people like to call them raids, entries, going CQB back action, containment of vehicles, fights. A non-compliant subject. What's a non-compliant subject? A person that just doesn't want to go to jail that day. I'm going to go into custody. It's a very small amount. Because if you're doing it day in and day out, you're going to be like those poor Marines were in La Fallujah when they were banging 30, 40 doors a day. And they were getting picked off because a lot of times, were they trained to be doing CQB work, like say like a Navy SEAL team or other units going in? I mean, training, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So for me personally, I'll get one more thing for you is how about some training? Going to sit and listen to some guy come in and blah, blah, blah about how when he was an agent, 30 years ago, how the drug trade changed, and you're sitting there for 2 hours going, dude, I gotta go. I gotta make some things happen. But you can't, because you're told by the administration. You sit there and listen to this person talk. So a lot of it has to do with, it's not always a TV show. 44 minutes, guys? 44 minutes plus commercials, an hour-long TV show. You get 44 minutes of action or whatever it is, something like that. And almost every minute they're involved in something. You could never personally keep that up day in and day out. There's no way. There's just no way. Physically, mentally, spiritually, there's no way to be able to keep that up. But
it's not
to do it.
No, it's not sustainable to do that. And Bill, you being an NYPD internal affairs guy, that stuff, dude. We've all done different tracks, but you have experience doing this stuff, so you know it. And to echo what Jack said, I think the training thing, man, is if you get some nerd who comes in and he's like, yeah, I've done this, whatever he's done. All right, cool story, bro. Let's go out and let's start practicing lead poisoning. Let's do that. But in the grand scheme of things, there is not. I think what I would encourage a young person who's wanting to go into this field is to accept boredom. That's it. Yeah. Accept that you're going to be bored a lot of times. Definitely know about your constitutional law, but accept that no, you're not going to be Jason Bourne.
Nope.
That's not happening.
Not happening, man.
And the thing that I recommend is to know that this is a team effort. You have to be a team player.
Yes.
You think that you got gifts to investigations and that you are a one-man team and that you are Mr. Know-It-All, you in the wrong field, because it takes a good team and a good solid partnership with the people around you and with the agencies that work together. And it works in the military. The artillery needs the infantry like the infantry needs the artillery. We need the cooks, we need the clerks, we need the people that do our payroll. It is a team effort. And that's what makes this unit so valuable, is the compromise of each little end in that panel of ends working together for one common mission. The other thing is being able to tell whether the informant is full of shit or not. Because you spend more time debriefing people that have no first-hand knowledge of what's going on, and their information is 5 people away from the truth, meaning they got it from the cousin got it from another guy, and then it lands up in your lap, and then you bring it to the DEA to try to see how much money you could make, and to try to sell a dream. And one of the ways is, and probably Jack knows this, yeah, the shipment is coming on Monday, but they didn't tell you what year or what month. It's Monday, but we don't know. So you could be sitting and you put together this whole operation and it doesn't work.
Yes, there's a lot of clever individuals out there. Not to interrupt you, Bill, not interrupt you, but yes.
And there's a difference between a self-initiated investigations and an investigation that the department or that the agency gives you, especially in internal affairs work. Self-initiated means that you actually witness or were preview to the information as it was being developed, and you didn't need nobody telling you the information because you observe it or you happen to be in when they were doing whatever they were doing. So in both of the agencies, do you guys have field associate programs?
What's it called?
Field associate program.
Can you explain what that is?
It's when they recruit agents at the academy or somewhere in their career, and they become moles within the units that they work with.
No.
I was going to say, as far as I know, we didn't have that at the agency. And me working in internal affairs and then also at the Inspector General's office, no. There were, and you got to understand, Bill, CA thought that, well, they've always thought they were the cool kids in school. And so we're not going to compromise our equities in this at all. And that's why a lot of cases that CA has, they never surface in the light of day. Nobody's arrested, arraigned, and indicted by a grand jury. They're not, because CAA, and Jack can attest to this, at the federal agent level, Jack and I were both federal agents. At the federal agent level, we have a 95% conviction rate. Local law enforcement has a 71% conviction rate. So why is that? Is it because we're better than these other nerds? Probably, yeah. But then also on the back of that,
I love it.
They don't get to select what cases they get, man. Everything comes across their desk. And Jack can attest to this, man, that if a case comes across his desk or my desk, and I reach out to the AUSA and I'm like, hey, dude, here's what I got, man. And he's like, you guys, you nerds aren't going to declassify for prosecutorial purposes. I'm like, no, well, they're not going to. So they're more selective at what they take come across their desk. So to take it back to what you were talking about, whenever you have everything coming across your desk, the majority of the time at the federal level, they're going to toss that shit, man. They're not going to look at it. They're going to toss most of those. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, in the NYPD, they have what is called the Field Associate Program. It is that they will recruit somebody or undercovers and pull them out of the academy like they got thrown out of the academy, or they let them graduate and they send them to precincts, but they are already registered like almost like an informant, and they call field associates. And what happens is you have a guy that's working with you in the precinct, and he might be infiltrated by internal affairs within the precinct setting. So, and in the NYPD, there's a lot of integrity tests. Everything becomes an integrity test. That means that they actually set up and stage apartments with drugs and money and things to see if the cops that respond, the apartment is fully wired with cameras and all of that, microphones, to see if you take the money or if you take the alleged drugs, or they could put a wallet inside the patrol car, and when you get the patrol car and it's the starting of your shift, if you don't pull out the back seat and check thoroughly for weapons, for wallets or whatever, or a lady could come up to you, an old lady, and hand you a wallet with a bunch of $100 bills, and you decide not to turn it in, but you being filmed when she gave it to you, and if you don't go and voucher with all of the money without missing one dime or one piece of anything that's in that wallet, it will cost you your job. So there's a lot of checks and balances, but then there is the other side, nepotism and preferential treatment, and the people that are well connected with the department. And that is the worst type of corruption. That is the corruption that doesn't allow these untouchables from being touched.
Give an example, Bill. Give an example now. Give me an example.
I give you a good example. You report a big boss in the police department, and you make what is called an intelligence report that someone in the precinct, in the economy, told you this chief did this and that, and you put it into a intelligence report. It gets to the hands of internal affairs. Internal affairs then calls the cop that wrote the intelligence report, suspends that cop for reporting the corruption, wash their hands by giving a GO-15, which is a departmental interrogation, and the chief, done by another chief, and probably the chief of internal affairs, and then bring up on charges the officer and the witness officers, and get in trouble the guy that gave you the information in the street to cover up for that chief. That is the type of corruption that it's a double standard. While you are an internal affairs undercover, if you are locking up cops and low level detectives, you're a hero. But you start touching management, or you start going up the ladder, because I always said corruption starts at the top and it trickles down. It never starts from down and it goes up. Because you took money as an officer, you took money as a sergeant, then you took money as a lieutenant, then you took money as a captain, and then you went all the way up to the commissioner of the police department. If you're corrupt once, you corrupt for life. It's not like you could turn it off. I'm corrupt today, but I'm not corrupt tomorrow. And you saw what has been going on in this city, where all these knuckleheads go out there, do all types of criminal conduct, but you don't see nobody going to jail. And what is worse is a police officer that gets thrown out of the police department for any little thing, cannot even get a job in McDonald's. But the real criminals, the politicians, go to jail and come out, run for office again, and continue to work for the government. How does that work?
Well, I'm not the host of the show. I'm just a guest. But I'm gonna segue out of that because we're getting into politics right now. So that's a tough answer, man. That's a tough answer. That's something I'm surprised they even treat your law enforcement personnel that way. I mean, I worked in the inspections division. I wasn't in the felony squad. I was in the misdemeanor squad. I was an agent, a supervisory special agent that would go out and inspect the offices. So if you were handling the Philadelphia Field Divisional Office, and we would come in as like 30, 40 bodies for a week, and we come in and inspect you, make sure you're doing all the program areas properly. And if you're not, then we would, of course, write you up and finding significant deficiencies and so on and so forth. But what you're telling me is that's some crazy stuff. I mean, I've heard of it, but for us to do it, it doesn't happen, because you know why? We're not the size of the NYPD, which is like 36,000 police officers, I guess, and you have to police yourself, and You have to make sure everything's in order. But we're more of a 5,000, 5,500, hopefully going to grow even further under this administration, but we'll see. But a lot of times our cases deal with agent personnel that are doing stupid things. And majority of the stupid things they're doing is just like ridiculous, like taking their government card and smashing into a home, and they're drunk, and they're going to get these 60 days off without pay or 90 days off without pay. And so, but then we do have some of the heavies. Some of the heavies are getting, go to trial, get convicted, and they go to the penitentiary.
Right. But you know what is important about this conversation is that people need to know there are consequences to their actions.
Absolutely, sure.
But
absolutely.
It should be in a level playing field.
Good luck with that, right?
You can't kill the messenger if you don't like the message. If you don't like the message, listen to it, investigate it, and do a thorough job. But don't punish the person for bringing the message because you don't want to hear it.
All right, Bill, for me to break it down through this lens is I'll give you the best example I can about why people don't hold other people accountable. There was a lady at the CIA who was wrote up, and I don't know, when did you retire, Jack?
January 1, 2019.
January
2019.
All right, so I left in 2021, and you guys face the same suitability issues that we face. And when I started CIA in 06, there were 13, and then went down to 11. I don't know what it was, but you fast forward, and whenever I left, it was 11. There was a lady who got sweated. She got looked at, and she had 7 of the 11 suitability issues that she was looking at: sexual behavior, alcohol considerations, or alcohol. It went down the board of it, and they always attach personal conduct to that. So she was going to eat all of that, man. The thing about it was this was in the middle of this was 2019, as a matter of fact. So we're in the middle of the Me Too movement, and they're like, shit, how do we handle this? What do we do? So they want to go hands off. After it was identified that this woman was, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, I'm not a misogynist, but after it was identified that they were facing all of these suitability issues, they're like, she can't be an access, dude. We're going to have to, 100%, we're going to have to shit can her. Well, now let's look at this through a practical lens. If to avoid a liability of, we're in the middle of the Me Too movement, and again, I'm not a misogynist, man, but if we're going to we're going to go across the bow on that, and we're going to shit can her, and it's justified, it's legal, then on the back end, we don't do it. If a component, and Jack's aware of this, if a component is aware, or Jack know how this works, he's not aware of this case, but if a component gets notification that, hey, you got this, that you have to take action, then at that point, the component, the person who makes the decision to not take action on that individual, could be complicit in a conspiracy charge. So you got some fish to fry on that shit. And I think that it is what it is, man. I love the federal government, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, there is it is what it is. Federal government's fucked up. I still love them, but with that being said, the primary job of the federal government, number one, is to protect the United States, and number two is to avoid liability. And I would challenge anybody to come back with a different thing. Jack was doing DEA, I was doing CA. Yeah, he and I were both concerned about national security, first of all. Number two, how do we save our asses on this? How do we mitigate liability?
I'm gonna jump in there right there
Right.
with Bob.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna jump in. I mean, an SRP, suitability
Yep.
review protocol, very difficult, and I think Bob would agree with me on this. A lot of subjectivity, because a lot of times is, do you have the cold hard facts? Are those people going to come forward that know what's going on, and they should come forward, but they don't come forward because they're trying to protect themselves and protect their own job. There are a lot of times, as a former boss, and of course Bobby being a boss, 90% of your time, I'm telling you right now, as a boss, a resident agent in charge, a supervisor special agent, you got one or two gangsters in your office that you are like just leaning into every time. What are they doing now? And the other, I don't know, 30 or 40 are running or doing their thing with the proper supervision. And it's 90% of the time. And your audience out there has to understand something. This goes back to wrap around the question and come back to the other end for Bobby's question, Bobby's answers, which were awesome. Is you're like going like, oh my God, you guys are working me into the ground because I want to be on the street, kicking doors, doing this. We're supposed to be following this guy, get the air units up and all that. But those SRPs, those suitability review protocols, man, I'm not I do not like to write. And man, you got to have that stuff tight. It has to be tight because why? You're dealing with the person's livelihood, a person's career. And then, of course, they might come back and sue Uncle Sam. And guess who's going to be named on that? When you're a boss, your name's up top. Go figure it out. So
Jack and I are saying the same thing, man. We're saying the same thing.
No, I agree with you both. I mean, one of the things is federal law enforcement before 9/11, federal law enforcement after 9/11. Before 9/11, the boys didn't know how to play in the sandbox. They couldn't agree with each other on anything. A lot of the agencies had this rivalry that we can't share this, we're not going to give them that, and it came back and bit us on the behind. Things changed. I don't know how they are now. Changed a little bit after 9/11, and thank goodness for that the agencies realize how much we need each other to be able to accomplish a very dangerous mission when the entire world wants to attack the United States. And they come from always. They use narcotics as an atomic bomb on our people. They use terrorism. They use all types of tricks to try to damage our way of life. Is that how you guys view it also, or am I the only one that views it that way?
Bob, you want to go?
The only thing, thanks, Jack. The only thing that I would say is, again, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up Jack's ass, but I'm saying this through the lens of, like, I look at FBI as, they're nerds. I look at whoever, man. But DA, no, those guys are fucking studs, man. It is what it is. And a guy can spot a guy. It is what it is. If you're a badass, which I am not, again.
No, I don't. I believe you. Come on now. You got a hell of a backup, Bob. Come on. Now.
No, I'm not the sharpest marble. I'll put it to you like that. but a guy can spot a guy. And if you are out and you are, like, let's say I had to go out and I was doing something. Let's say I was in Afghanistan or Pakistan or wherever, and Jack, I was doing CA shit, and Jack was with some DA guys, and they were looking at poppy fields. It's not going to take 5 minutes for me to be like, this guy's fucking cool, dude. No. So no, I'm going to have fidelity in him. So it's, and again, Bill, you and I talked about it, man, with the how much decision making is predicated on ego and politics. A shit ton is, man. There's no way getting around it. And the majority of that is ego. And it is what it is. Like, let's say that you or Jack got sideways with a guy 20 years ago, and then now you move forward and you're doing an operation, and this other guy's the shot caller, and he's like, yeah, man, fuck Bill. No,
Yep.
I'm going to do the exact opposite because it's Bill Acosta or it's Jack McFarland or it's Bobby Bunch. They will do that. That's how it goes. So no, they're basically, you got to be a grown ass man and have some maturation and recognize we're not in the 7th grade anymore, dude. So I'm going to handle my shit. You handle yours. If your plan's better than mine, I'm not going to hold on to being butthurt from some shit that went down 20 years ago. And it does. It saddens me. And I don't get sad, dude, but it just, I'm like, for real, dude, you guys are still holding on to this shit and you fuck up an operation because of some beef from 30 years ago? Get over it, dude.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, Bob. Very good point. May I step in? I mean, Bobby is actually killing it. I mean, he really is. And you too, Bill. I mean, we right into money with this. And I hope your listeners are not bored with this subject matter. But the subject matter is this. It's everywhere in society. Not just law enforcement, not just the military. It's everywhere in society. Who's in with who? Who goes and has beers with them at the end of the day? Who's watching whose kids? And, and it's not the sharpest tool in the shed. It's always, doing the best work. I mean, come on. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
You know what I used to say, Jack? I had some people that I work with that if the commander made a sharp right turn, it will break their nose.
There you go. There you go. Boy, you are coming out of your shell, my brother. I tell you.
We're going to open you up, brother.
I knew we'd get you going.
The guy's carrying the coffee. Captain, here's your coffee for today.
Oh, yeah.
Captain, you want more coffee? Captain, can I bring you a glass of water? And I just can't kiss ass. And, you might not like me. I don't care. But I'm not going to kiss your ass. Not for a promotion, not for an assignment, nothing. And the other bad part is, I don't know if it functions the same in DEA or the CIA, is the empty phone. If they don't like you, they pick up the phone and it goes all over the whole entire police department.
Oh yeah.
People,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
I was in a line one time in a store on Northern Boulevard. And it was the first time that I reported some corruption. So it came out in the papers. And 2 cops are in uniform and I'm behind them to pay. I'm in civilian clothes. And one guy says, "You see this guy? I know him. That guy Acosta, I work with him." So I touched him in the shoulder and I said, "Yeah, you know Acosta? Where you know him from?" "I work with him." And I said, "I'm Acosta. I never seen you in my life." They walked out of the store so embarrassed. They didn't even pay for the stuff. They put the stuff and left.
Wow.
And it has happened to me. People that didn't even know me, don't know, or they write up in the surveillances, "I saw him coming out of a bar drinking. He was drunk." I never drank alcohol in my life.
Sure.
Put me in places I've never been to.
Sure. I'm sorry, but
in places when I was not even in New York.
I mean, something like that is absolutely ridiculous. That's fabricated. It's false. So those individuals that do that, they should be, of course, penalized for that kind of business. But a lot of times, even in like DEA, right, all the alphabets. I mean, yes, one way or another. I mean, in other words, they're not getting that extra added because of they're hooked up with this person, hooked up with that person. But my personal take on that is, I didn't give a rat's ass, man. You want to come at Jack Mac? Come on. I think it was pretty good. I mean, not everyone's gonna like you. Hell, I mean, I had bad guys might respect me more than some of my own counterparts sometimes. I mean, I'm in a fist fight in one of the office in Philly with one of the guys, and he lost. But I just want to let you know that. I'm just kidding. So. And then you get these crooks that have bodies on them, and they're sitting across from you, and they're facing life, and they're like, and you treated me right. I did a bunch of messed up things, but you treated me right. Like, that's cool. But you're going in for life. Like, I know. But honestly, I mean, it gets to be, and let the listener know this. I don't care if you're, working when I was a young kid as a paper boy, and I got the bad paper route versus these other guys that got the better paper routes. Why? Because the other paper routes went to the guy's kid who owns the paper store. So what the heck? How can I compete against that? So you have to sit back. You have to take it backwards and say, I got to do my own thing, man. I got to help out where I can, but I got to do my own thing. And that's a lot of times what Bob was saying, and you were saying, Bill, about cooperative spirit. You got to have a cooperative spirit. You can't do this on your own. If you think you're going to do it on your own, you're going to fail miserably. And everyone's going to bypass you with cases and seizures and awards and promotions. Unless you're hooked, unless you're connected. You got a rabbi. Who's your bishop? Who's your pope?
Jack, let me ask you this. This is not my podcast. I'll ask you this. This is what I found at the AC, and I had a buddy, DEA guy. He was my boss's boss, only a year older than me. Super cool, and he's telling me about some shit he did at DEA before he came to CA. He was he went from being a lifeguard and doing some surfing shit, and then being a flight attendant, then a local cop, when I say flight attendant, not a homosexual.
No.
So I'm not saying it through that lens, but then became a cop up in Arlington, and then a DEA guy. But he ended up coming to work for CA, and he was doing some shit down in Miami for the agency, and just protection work. But he's like, I ran into a dude that got a collar on when I was in DEA. And I was like, oh shit, man, that must have been dicey. And he's like, no. He said, from what he experienced at the DEA, he's like, the bad guys that were collaring, like the seniors, they looked at it, it's just business, man. You're doing your job, I'm doing mine, man. So no, we're cool, we're homies. I'm not gonna burn you down. So good to see you.
That's a great point, brother. And it's true. I mean, the ones that you really were in my opinion, is my humble opinion, you had to be very careful of are the guys that were on the street. They were crazy violent. You got the mid levels and the upper levels. They're more like, hey, you got me, take me in. I'll give Mr. I don't know what high level attorneys in Philadelphia. When you knew you had someone great, when you knew a certain group of attorneys to come walking in, and you'd be like, yeah, and they'd whisper into your ear, hey Jack, give me a couple hours, I'll have them on board. Perfect, It's like done deal. And the guy just gave him a retainer for like $250,000, and he's gonna plead him out, and he's gonna get 20 years anyway for $250,000, whatever. And it was awesome. I can name names, but and I had one fella. He was a hell of a defense attorney in Philadelphia. He handled all the mobsters, all the gangsters in South Philly. But he would get sometimes the high-end guys, high-end dopers from North Philly, and you knew when Mr. P would walk in. I'm not gonna give the name, but Mr. P would walk in and be like, "Oh, we got some action. I guess we're doing our job." And I swear to God, walking out the court, he says, "Hey, Jack." So myself and my partner walk over. He goes, "Give me a couple of hours." He said, "I'll take care of it." I'm like, "I'll get on board." I said, "Okay." And sure as hell, a couple of days later, he's in proffer. You know what a proffer is? Someone has to give it up, man. And they're on board. So just a funny little story, but it's true.
It's just business, man.
It's business, man. It was business. And it was true. It was just freaking business. One time we did have our, in the 25th Police Precinct in Philadelphia, the North Philadelphia, patrolmen, they came upon a fire in a cemetery. And there was in that cemetery, there was a cow's tongue and there was blood. And there was a criminal complaint that they had from the federal court with my name as the affiant on it. And they also had my partner's name and my other gentleman I work with, God rest his soul, he passed away. All three of our names. They were kind of misspelled a little bit, but we knew who they were. Our names were that they were putting a hex on us. So it was kind of somewhat of a threat, Like, okay,
run around with chickens and
exactly.
And shit.
They were Jamaicans, I guess. They were putting a hex on us.
Oh.
I still haven't grown the third head. I'm waiting for it, man. I'm still waiting for it. So I'm not going to win, Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. How do you earn the trust of foreign counterparts when you're working overseas?
By lying to them.
Oh, God, no.
It's what it is, man. No, I did it for 15 years, dude. So no, just by lying to those nerds. No, that's it.
And you, Jack?
That's a great question. I had the opportunity, not to put this out there, but I had the opportunity, and I said in your previous show about being in the Caribbean division, worked very closely with the Brits, the Dutch, and the French. You have to size them. You have to size each one of them up. What are they into? How are they going to assist? And if they're coming through, then I kind of like, we're coming through. Then we kind of get a better understanding of one another. I think it comes down to understanding what their capabilities are. And I'll be truthful. I liked all three of the groups that I was working down there with, meaning the Dutch, the French, the Brits. But the Brits brought it to the table down there. I mean, I'm talking 01, 2, 3, 4 in the Virgin Islands. They really brought it to the table. We needed something, bam. They needed something from us. We do the same thing. So I think seeing what they're made of and see how we can get this to work in intercooperational agency missions.
Well, Bill, to take it back, when I said lie to them, you lie to them 100%. And if you come at what I've experienced, and Jack, I don't know if he's had to do this, but no, he's probably, well, no, let me backtrack. I'm going to be very confident that Jack's done it. But as soon as you come out the gate, if you're bullshitting those nerds, they're going to do the same thing to you. So then you guys are like, all right, we're cool. So we're both in it. I want the best outcome. You want the best outcome. I don't want to shoot you. You don't want to shoot me. I got more ass on the back end as far as fiscals than what you have, but I can hook you up, homie. Do me a solid on this shit. So, and once you approach it through that level, you're building a level of trust. And so you start off, as crazy as that sounds, you start off building a level of trust based upon a lie.
What is the most creative workaround you use to navigate red tape and political influence within the agencies?
I'm putting that to you. I'm putting that to you, Jackie. I'm not. No, dude.
I'm just going to put it this way. In my 32 years of service, I had one OPR investigation, internal affair investigation. That was because of a TSA employee. I'm good to go, baby. I am good to go. I was clean, man. Always down, always keeping it straight, brother. Always keeping it straight. One TSA employee broke my rear end and my wife's rear end after leaving in an airport. And honest God is my witness. He took a piece of paper, I'm going to demonstrate, and he ripped it in half. And on that piece of paper, he wrote, "This agent was disrespectful to me." When I got to review the case file, in the case file was that piece of paper which triggered an internal affairs investigation, OPR investigation, when I was the resident agent in charge in U.S. Virgin Islands. The DEA must have spent. I must have said another show, $2,000. Oh no, I'm upping it. Probably $5,000 of personnel time, interview time, flying me here. It was ridiculous, and I end up getting a letter of caution. So
you got an LOW basically, and they're like, all right, Jack, go over there and don't harass TSA agents anymore.
Just unreal. Of all the crazy things that we've done in our careers.
Thank you for joining us for this truly insightful conversation with Jack McFarland and Robert Bunch. We deeply appreciate your candor, your service, and your experience you both share with our audience today. Your stories highlight the vital link between military principles, federal service, and the relentless pursuit of justice and security. To our listeners and viewers, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, share it with your family and friends, and follow me using the link you see on the screen below. Special thanks to our outstanding producer team, None of this is possible without your behind-the-scene dedication. Until next time, stay safe and God bless.